Inside this crate is a new tool for the shop. This is a PM 1228. Greetings, fellow DIYer, and welcome to my video. So there we have it unpacked, and let me tell you what, this is a thing of beauty. It is a whole lot bigger than the lathe that I've been using for years. It's got a bunch of features that my current lathe does not have. And hopefully, the next time you see this, it'll be sitting on a brand new workbench that will be built where my mill lathe combo is currently living. So here we have all the accessories that I just unpacked from the lathe, and there's a lot here. If you've seen my video where I purchased a brand new mill, there wasn't nearly the accessories with the mill, and the reason for that is the mill that I had previously used a lot of the same tooling. It was an R8 spindle, and a lot of the accoutrements that you need to use the mill I already had. A lot of the tooling and accessories that I currently have for my current lathe are simply too small. So when I ordered this lathe, I pretty much got everything that I was going to need from Precision Matthews, except for there was one piece that they didn't offer that I will show you when I unbox all this, that I did end up ordering somewhere else. Now, before I dive into this and begin unpacking all these boxes and all these accessories, and I talk about why I got these compared to what I already had, you need to know that while I did pay for this Precision Matthews lathe, and I did pay for these Precision Matthews accessories, they did end up giving me a discount. I just want to be upfront and honest with that. My review of this product will be accurate to the best of my ability. My review of these products and this lathe is going to be honest. If there's something I like, you're going to hear about it. If there's something I don't like, you are going to hear about it. And I even took that approach when I made the videos that I've made thus far regarding the mill. There's multiple things that I absolutely loved about that mill. And then there were several things where my comment was literally, who thought this was a good idea? So I'm sure I will have some of that. I just wanted to be upfront, let you know that I did get this at a reduced price, but that does not change the fact that I am going to review it honestly and give you, the viewer, an unbiased look at everything I've got going on. There's a lot of good stuff here. Let's tear into it and see if we can figure out exactly what we have. Let's start with this big one here in the middle. Get it out of the way. I'm not going to completely unbox that. That is the DRO for this lathe. Just like with the mill, I had the DRO factory installed. It's not that I couldn't have purchased a DRO and installed it myself. It just really came down to time. Plus, I was really impressed on the mill with the quality of the factory install. When I put DROs on my mill lathe combo machine that eventually became just a lathe and just a standalone mill, I did those installs myself. And the DRO and the brackets that came with were your typical inexpensive one-size-fits-none. And I was able to do a clean install. But it took a fair amount of fabrication, and the purpose-built brackets that were used for the DRO install on my mill were absolutely gorgeous. They were good quality. They were, well, purpose-built. And so the results, I mean, it was a no-brainer when it came to this lathe that I was just going to go ahead and have the DRO factory installed. Here we have a live center. That is a heavy-duty solid piece, and that actually feels really smooth. I ended up having to upgrade my live center because the old live center that I had was Morris Taper 2. The tailstock on this new lathe is Morris Taper 3, so that actually required me to upgrade several pieces of tooling. I did also purchase from Amazon a Morris Taper 2 to Morris Taper 3 adapter so that I can use things like my bullnose. But for some of these things, where precision is definitely key, it made a lot more sense to just upgrade the tooling specifically to be correct rather than trying to make what I already had work. I'm not gonna lie, this feels a little like Christmas. Always good to have the correct oil. How about if I turn that the right way? Always good to have the right oil for both the gearbox and the ways. I could have sourced some of this locally or ordered it separately, but since the machine was already coming, it just makes sense to get everything, and then I'm not having to try and figure it out after the fact. And here we have something that I think is a must for any lathe, and that's a quick change tool post. Before purchasing this lathe, I was looking at this one and another model they had. And while this lathe was the upgraded model, I was actually surprised to see that it did not come standard with a quick change tool post. What it came with was the turret style, which is not a bad tool post, but quick change is so much better, especially because of the height adjustability. Again, I wanted to make the install of this as simple as possible, so went ahead and got it from Precision Matthews, and I'm assuming that is gonna bolt right up to what I have and allow me that quick change option. And keep in mind, there are several types of quick change tool posts out there. You have both the wedge style and the piston style. Now, a piston style has a piece that comes out right here when you tighten it down. Where the wedge one, this wedge moves up and down to tighten. And the advantage of going with a wedge type tool post is repeatability. You can get things adjusted and it will be more consistent when you tighten it down compared to when it is when it's loose. And so it just makes it easier to use and more accurate. It's your typical tool holders. You've got boring bar holder, you've got a knurling tool, you've got a parting tool option, those kind of things, all of which you will be seeing on the lathe because I will be installing this and we'll be using it hopefully before too long. Some heavy duty brackets there. I'm not sure what those are. Guess I'm gonna have to look at the manual and figure that part out. And that is a follower rest. Now this is something I'm looking forward to using. I did end up making a steady rest for my old lathe, but I did not have a follower rest. And with this lathe being so much bigger and parts being so much longer, having the follower rest to help keep things tight and keep them from flexing is going to significantly improve my cuts. All right, this came with this nice toolbox, and that's all of our lathe. Came with a fairly nice toolbox. That's all your basic accessories. You've got things like chuck key. Looks like I've got my extra jaws for the chuck, belt. This is going to be my go-to when I initially get things set up and am installing things. I don't even have to open that one to know what it is. It says ER40 collet chuck. I've got both ER32 and ER40 collets that I use on my current lathe and on the mill. So when it came time to get a chuck specifically for this lathe that would accept those ER40 collets, I made sure that I did that. If you're gonna have a lathe, you need to have an independent jaw chuck. And that's what this is. This is an 8-inch independent jaw chuck that will mount right up to this lathe. This was another one of those things where I had an independent 4-jaw chuck for my old lathe, but the mounting system was totally different. So I had no choice but to upgrade. You know the old saying, if you're going to be on a desert island and you're only allowed one chuck, this is the one that you want because you can use it to hold everything. Of course, it doesn't have the convenience of being quick and easy to set up. But what it does have is tons of repeatability, and especially the added benefit of being able to hold irregular pieces. So this is a must for any lathe. Now, since we just looked at that other 4-jaw chuck, we need to look at this 4-jaw chuck. And you're probably thinking, why does he need 2 4-jaw chucks? This is the one piece that I ordered ahead of time from a different supplier. I believe this came from Shars. And that is this guy right here. This is a self-centering 4-jaw chuck. Now, if I've already got a self-centering 3-jaw chuck that came with the machine, and I've already got a 4-jaw chuck with independent jaws, why do I need a self-centering 4-jaw chuck? I found that this was one of the better upgrades, not this chuck in particular, but a self-centering chuck just like it, only a lot smaller, was one of the better upgrades that I made to my old lathe. I found that I got a little better holding power with the 4th jaw if you're doing round stock, that sort of thing. Super great for square stock, which I do work on a fair amount of square stock. And the biggest thing for me, especially being a fabricator, not a machinist, is that I found that the 4-jaw chuck was closer to repeatable than the 3-jaw chuck. So what I'm saying there is if I chuck something up in the 3-jaw and I make cuts on it, and then the order of operations requires me to take it out of the chuck, it's really hard to get it lined back up perfectly and have everything still be concentric to your original cuts. But with the 4-jaw chuck, I find that you're a whole lot closer. And so that is why I purchased this. I also, at the same time, had to purchase an adapter plate to make it work. And it currently does not fit this chuck because this ring is intentionally oversized. So once I get the lathe set up and once I get everything up and running, I'm going to have to install this backing plate and turn that down ever so slightly to be able to install this 4-jaw self-centering chuck. But I have a feeling once I do that, this will probably be the chuck that lives on this lathe most of the time. Last box. Christmas is over. And that's my steady rest. It's so nice that this machine came with both a steady rest and a follower rest. You really want them to be specifically matched to your machine. And in a lot of cases, you can't even buy the specific components for various machines if they don't initially come with them. Now, some suppliers do say, okay, here's the lathe, and we do offer these accessories extra. But both the steady rest and the follower rest came with this machine from the factory, didn't have to spend any extra money on it. And that's fantastic. I know it's going to fit. I know it's going to work. And unlike with my old lathe, I don't have to make it myself. And there we have it. All of the goodies that I either purchased with the lathe or I purchased to go with the lathe. And now it's just a matter of setting up some workbench space and getting the lathe moved. Stay tuned, as there's going to be a lot of future videos on this machine. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them down in the comments.
If you like what you've seen, please click like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.